All right, let's move on to the final email of the day, and then we'll get over to your live questions. And the final email today comes to us from Scott Dickens, who writes, why doesn't anybody talk about the whole initial Disney deal that happened in December? Everyone only brings up the $52 billion, but that deal included absorbing $13 billion in Fox debt. The Disney deal was essentially for $65 billion in value to Fox. Why is the debt part being ignored? Wouldn't Disney's deal be similar in value to the current Comcast bid now? Okay, so this was obviously written before Disney made the new offer, right? But it is kind of weird how many, I've had a lot of people emailing me saying, but John, that $52 billion bid by Disney included absorbing $13 billion in debt. That essentially makes it the same as Comcast's deal. No, it doesn't. Because here's how it works. With very, very, very few exceptions, this is how it works. If you buy a company, you automatically assume its debts. That's automatic. So let's say there is this water bottle, and this water bottle was a company. And let's say this water bottle was worth $100 million. But the water bottle, it has debts of its own. Let's say it owes $5 million in debts. Okay, so I come in and I buy this water bottle. Well, this water bottle, I own the water bottle, but the water bottle has $5 million in debts. That means I have $5 million in debts. When you buy a company or a property, you assume all the debts that comes along with it. Here's an example. My very first job in law was, my first placement was in a real estate law firm. In Hamilton, Ontario. My first placement was at a real estate law firm. And my job was that when we had a client getting ready to buy a house, it was my job to research and investigate the history of the house and all the credits and debtors and people who put liens on that house all the way back to when the property was first established 100 years ago or however many years ago, right? Because let's say the government puts a tax lien on the house. Well, even if it wasn't you that had the tax lien and you buy that house, guess what? You inherited the tax lien. Let's say some cable company was able to put a lien on the house. If you buy that house, you inherit that lien. That's why I had to investigate it so I could tell the potential purchasers, here's all the history of this house that you need to know before you buy it. Because if you buy the house, you're buying all the debts that come along with it. If you buy a company, so the reason nobody talked about that $13 billion in debt assumption once Comcast made their bid is because everybody knows that Comcast, on top of buying the company, they would also be inheriting that $13 billion in debt. Everybody just knew that. So Disney's initial deal was $52 million. Comcast's initial offer was $65 million. Both of those would have to assume the $13 billion in debts. So that's why nobody talked about it, because it's equal across the board. Whoever buys Fox, they inherit the $13 billion in debt. So no, Disney's initial deal was not on par with Comcast's deal, because if you want to include the debt assumption, then sure, Disney's initial deal, including the debt assumption, comes to $65 billion. Well, then if you're throwing in the debt assumption, that means Comcast's initial offer was valued. Even though they're offering to pay $65 billion, they're assuming the $13 billion in debts. So therefore, their value of their bid would have been like $78 billion. So that's why there's no point in even talking about it. Whoever buys Fox assumes the debts. So you make your offers, and it's just known that you're assuming the debts. So that's why it's not like Comcast can buy the company and then just, we don't have to pay your debts. Yes, you do. Fox owes $13 billion. If you now own Fox, you owe that $13 billion. That's just generally how it works. Okay, and again, there are exceptions, but they're rare. There are exceptions, but they are rare. Okay, with that all out of the way now, let's get on to your live